Ya, pemirsa, saat ini saya berada di Islamic Museum of Australia dan bersama saya saat ini adalah Ashraf Naim, General Manager dari museum ini. Saya akan menanyakan beberapa hal terkait museum. Hello, how are you?
Not bad, yourself?
Good. So, what is actually the reason behind the building of this museum?
The whole reason behind the museum itself was a couple of years ago. The founder, Mustafa Faour, he wanted to make a donation, and he really didn't know, where to make the donation to. So he thought the best way to do at that stage was to find something that could educate the Australian people and the Muslims and everybody of different faiths. So then the idea of the Islamic Museum came through. And then ever since we've been working on this, and finally now it's open to the public, and it's used pretty much as a education resource tool, and hopefully the visitors that come through learn a few things that maybe they didn't know of and get interested to find out more.
Yeah. I noticed that this museum wants to embrace the idea of Australian identity of the Muslims.
Yes.
How could you explain about that?
At the same time, we wanted to turn around and give people an idea or teach people that Muslims have not been in Australia for the last 10, 20 years. So we thought the best way to identify who we are or who Muslims are is to look back at history, to show that we have provided infrastructure and positive needs to to Australia itself. So then what we did, there's a gallery in the Islamic Museum of Australia which is called Australian Muslim history, and here we documented ourselves. There's four of us, Jihad, Peter Gould, Mustafa and myself went on an expedition. We thought before we can even open the museum or pass on information to people, we should learn ourselves, we should teach ourselves. So we did this expedition and we went around Australia, we covered over 20,000 kilometres over 2 weeks. From there we learned quite a bit. We thought if we learnt this and we taught ourselves this information from the things that we found, then we should pass this on to the people of Australia, to the Muslims of Australia, to the non-Muslims. To show that there is positive and confidence throughout our community and history.
What did you find?
So what happened is that when we first went on this expedition, the whole idea was let's see how much we know or how much we don't know, and it looked like we didn't know as much as what we knew. So that was a positive thing, getting out there to learn the new facts or the interesting facts. So what we did, we asked ourselves about 10-15 questions before we left. When did Islam first arrive to Australia? What we're expecting out in the outback? What type of infrastructure we're looking to find out there? Pretty much all the questions that we asked ourselves as a group, we were wrong. I could say we were wrong, which was good. Like that's a positive too, because it actually made us more interested to find out more information about what we didn't know. So from there we realised that Islam didn't come in 1960, 1970 to Australia. Actually, it goes way back than that. And it actually reaches like the 1600s when the Macassans first came and met with the indigenous people of Australia. Then you had the Malays, the pearl divers, they came through. And then a huge story as well, and something that a lot of people get amazed by is the Cameleers, There's actually camels in Australia. And many people don't think there's camels in Australia. Again, it's something you discover, and the best way to do is to pass it on as education and let people discover more for themselves.
Could you highlight one of the examples? Most
what I came across was while we went on this expedition, one of our locations was a town named Maree, and it's in South Australia. And there we came across the first mosque in Australia. Looking at that made me, or myself personally, made me realise that how amazing it was. It was just made out of mud bricks.
I think we saw the picture around here.
Over there, yes.
Can we have a look there?
So it's made out of mud bricks, very simple, very small, pointed in the right direction. Just to see that made me realise the importance.
This one, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. So that's the first mosque in Australia. That's in Maree, South Australia, right in the middle of Australia, pretty much. But
Do they still preserve the?
Yeah. So now at the moment, obviously now it's a tourist attraction, more than anything else. And I remember that when we went there, we had our film crew, like this and like this, and we're walking through, and the locals started getting a little bit sensitive. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? I said, no, we're from the Islamic Museum of Australia. We're just talking. And they go, oh, you're Muslims? We go, yes. Okay, come straight through. You should let everybody know about this. And it was amazing to see non-Muslims in the middle of Australia respecting ourselves.
To explore about our own
when we're there,
culture.
to pass it on to the others. So I found that amazing, how we were pushed to go pass it on.
So what about the Makassar connection? I mean, it's very interesting. I believe not many Indonesians know about this. So would you like to expand us about
the Makassar connection itself? Again, it was something I didn't know of or didn't even think of. But when we went there to Arnhem Land, top of Australia, we were walking through all the lovely scenery and the, obviously the environment there. And there was we went to one cave or a wall of caves. They had pictures of, sailing boats. And with the sailing boats, we were told that, back in the day, obviously, you're talking a fair bit of time away. It was when the Macassans would wait for the wind to blow in the direction of Australia. So they would jump on this sailing boat, wait for the wind, or push them to Australia. They would get off, at the top of Australia. They would deal with the local people there. They would trade. Even marriage was part of it. And then after that, they'll wait for the wind to blow back in the direction back home, and then they'll jump back in the boat and go back home. So even thinking of that scenario is amazing. How it's all connected together. And then when you look at the images on the walls, the indigenous people actually explain the story. So you can see that even from this picture here, there's a lot of examples of trade of goods used by the Macassans. That's obviously glass there, broken pieces, and often Indonesian clay pipes as well. Obviously that was preserved. We weren't able to take any of that or touch any of that. But just to see that shows how much history Australia has, and it's very important to pass this on to today's people, to us, and to pass it on to the next generation and so forth.
What about the feedback so far from the visitors?
It's been amazing. I can say, as a Muslim myself, it's good to see even Muslims themselves. You can see it's something new for them. They take in, and then also you see the non-Muslims or of different faiths that come in. They actually, you find them interested by what they're reading, and then the beauty about it is that there's more questions after it. It's the questions that you get after it. So that's for as you know, when there's more questions, it means there's interest, which is good. But I'll show you a quick wall here that sort of highlights your question. A lot of visitors that come into the museum, I've seen this a number of times. They'll look at this wall here, as you can see, and they'll all say, or they'll all ask, which country is this? That's the purpose of this wall, is to show photos or photographs like this, and then for you just to judge it yourself. And believe it or not, this is actually in Australia. So when you say this is in Australia, they'll say, what do you mean? This? You go, yeah. So you can see even from this photo here and this photo over there, that's multiculturalism early in the day. And you can see here the camel train, which today we call the Ghan. Now you see the train tracks. There's a lot of history there. You can even see the camels back then providing supplies, water to whoever was in need, especially when there was floods. They were needed. They made Australia run pretty much back in the day. They built today's infrastructure. So you can see the importance. So this wall here highlights the feedback that we look for. This type of feedback. We look for people to say, which country is this?
Udah berkunjung ke sini kan? Yang paling berkesan apa?
Ini museum yang pada umumnya berkesan ya, banyak hal-hal baru buat saya dan anak saya. Cuma yang paling berkesan salah satunya adalah lukisan ini.
Kenapa?
Lukisan ini dikenal dengan lukisan penjelajahan Will Dunburg, penjelajahan awal Australia. Kebanyakan gambar-gambar hanya dipotong sampai sini. Tapi ternyata kalau kita lihat lukisan secara utuh, justru paling banyak adalah setelah kuda itu adalah unta-unta. Di mana unta-unta ini adalah bagian yang hilang yang selama ini tidak banyak orang ketahui. Justru orang-orang Afghanistan Muslim itu turut menjelajah dan memetakan Australia pada saat awal kedatangannya.
It is interesting as well to know that
Yeah,
there's a kind of this
there's-
name.
You also get visitors. They'll say, "Where can I get that sign done?" Or which sign writer did you use for that? But actually, that's a real sign. That's a sign in Alice Springs up north. What happened there is you go through the suburbs. There's many names that reflect, say names as Muhammad Street. And that was more in respect. That's how much power and respect the Camleys had back in the day, because of the supplies and what they did for Australia. Yeah, what they did for Australia. So you'll see from Melbourne. The funny thing is, as a Melburnian, you wouldn't like when I first saw this in Alice Springs. I thought I'd find this in Sydney.
Found.
No, I thought I'd find this in Sydney or Melbourne, thinking multicultural.
Yeah.
But that's in Alice Springs, so that shows that we shouldn't judge. We should actually we gotta know more. We gotta learn more.
Ya, demikian pemirsa wawancara saya dengan Ashraf Naim, General Manager dari Islamic Museum of Australia dari Melbourne, Australia. Ismail Fahmi mengabarkan.